Welcome to The Explainer. You know, we're all constantly making decisions, but have you ever thought about the hidden math that goes into every single one? Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on that calculation, from the epic scale of entire nations right down to the little choices you and I make every single day.
So, a fire department or your college degree, which one's more valuable? Now, I know that sounds like a totally random, maybe even an impossible question, right? But believe it or not, we're all using a hidden framework to try and answer it. It's this constant balancing act, a calculation of value versus cost. And you're going to see it happens absolutely everywhere.
All right, so here's how we're going to tackle this. First, we'll look at the price of society. Then we'll zoom into the business of value. After that, it gets personal with the individual calculation, and we'll even explore the community connection. And finally, we'll tie it all together with a framework for choice. We're going to see how this same pattern shows up again and again. All right, let's dive right in. We're starting big picture here, the price of society. We're talking about how an entire nation weighs its options. Okay, so let's talk about something called public goods. These are the big services. Think police, fire departments, public schools, things that benefit everybody. And they're incredibly valuable, but it's really hard to stick a price tag on them, right? I mean, if your house is on fire, the firefighters don't exactly show up and ask for your visa. Of course not. All of this stuff is funded by our taxes, for the good of all of us. But here's the thing, funding all this stuff isn't easy. It forces some really tough trade-offs. Let's take something like offshore drilling. On the one hand, hey, it creates jobs, right? It could boost the economy. But on the other hand, what's the cost? You're talking about threatening wildlife, maybe hurting the local fishing and tourism industries. See, it's this constant balancing act that governments have to do, trying to weigh these competing interests. It just goes to show, even at this huge national level, every single decision comes down to that same calculation, cost versus benefit. Okay, so from the whole country, let's zoom way in. We're going to look at the world of business, where this whole balancing act gets turned into a really precise science. So for any business, one of the first and most important questions is, when does our product actually stop losing us money? When is it even viable? That magic number is called the break-even point. It's the exact spot where your total sales equal your total costs. You're not making a profit yet, but you're not losing money either. It's kind of like the starting line for success. Really, it's the moment of truth for any new idea. And this isn't just theory, right? There are actual tools for this, like managerial accounting. So let's look at a meetup company, Channing's Chairs. They sell a chair for $100. It costs them $60 to make one, so they make $40 on each chair. That's their contribution margin. But they've also got $14,000 in fixed costs, rent, salaries, that kind of thing. So when you do the math, what do you get? They need to sell exactly 350 chairs just to break even. 350. But here's the cool part. Chair number 351, that's pure profit. This tool just turned a vague idea of making money into a super clear, concrete target. And get this, it gets even more clever. Companies don't just figure out their own costs. Sometimes they actually work backwards, starting with you. They do a ton of research to figure out the absolute maximum price you'd be willing to pay for something. Then they subtract the profit they want to make. And whatever is left over, that becomes their target cost. It's a simple question. Can we make this product for that price or less? If the answer is no, they might not even bother making it at all. It's fascinating. All right, we've talked about governments, we've talked about businesses. Now let's bring this all the way home to the individual, because this same calculation of cost versus value, it doesn't just happen in boardrooms with spreadsheets. It happens in our own lives. And, well, a lot of the time, it's a lot more personal and, honestly, a lot more painful. I mean, think about something like higher education. For so many people, it's seen as the gateway to a better life, a huge opportunity. It's a massive investment in yourself and your future. But that investment comes with a very real, very hard cost. And to help with that, there are federal loan programs. But here's the catch. They put a strict limit, a cap, on how much any student is allowed to borrow. And here's where the problem comes in. As you can see from this chart, that federal loan limit, well, it often falls way, way short of what a year of college actually costs. And that creates this painful funding gap. It's the difference between the money you can get and the money you actually need. And it can be a huge number. And that gap, it forces some absolutely excruciating choices. For some students and their families, the dream of going to a specific school or even getting a degree at all just gets put out of reach. The numbers just don't work. It's maybe the ultimate high-stakes trade-off, right? You're weighing the incredible value you believe an education will bring against its very, very real and personal cost. Okay, for our last piece of the puzzle, let's look at a totally different frontier. One where all these ideas of cost, value, and even community are being completely flipped on their head. We're talking about the digital age. I mean, just look at this timeline. It's an incredible journey, isn't it? We went from these simple dial-up bulletin boards in the 80s to chat rooms in the 90s, then bam! Facebook changes everything in 2004. And now we're in this era of super niche communities on platforms like Discord. Every single step along the way promised us new and better ways to connect. But here's the twist. Every one of these platforms has a price. It's not a price we pay with dollars and cents, but with a currency that's way more valuable, our time and our attention. So every time you log on, you're making a choice. Is this community worth that cost? So what is the one big idea here? What's the thread that connects all these seemingly random things? Government policy, corporate accounting, your tuition bill, and even the social media you scroll through. It's this. It's this universal framework, this constant act of weighing value against cost. Think about it. For governments, it's about weighing the value of a public good against what it costs the taxpayer. For businesses, it's about weighing the value of potential profit against the cost to actually make the thing. For us as individuals, we weigh the value of an opportunity, a dream, against the very real personal and financial cost. And even in our online communities, we're weighing the value of connection against the cost of our own time and attention. So you see, this whole framework, it doesn't really give us any easy answers, does it? But what it does do is give us a much more powerful way to ask questions. So now, when you look at a government policy or a new product in a store, or even just how you're spending your own afternoon, you can ask, what's the real value I'm getting here? And what's the hidden cost? Because ultimately, in a world that is just full of trade-offs, maybe the most important choices we ever make are about how we decide what is truly priceless.